Hey guys, my name is Matsumiel, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Gage, and it is, do you think that Tachanka needs another buff in Rainbow Six Siege? What I find funny about all of this is that I do agree with you. I think that he does need an upgrade, but I remember a couple of patches ago, Ubisoft was hyping the hell out of the shield buff to Tachanka. They were making it seem like it was going to be the next big thing. It was all of a sudden going to make him competitive. But then when we finally got our hands on him, yeah, it was a great step in the right direction. It definitely made him a little bit more viable. But because they added an insane amount of recoil to his turret, it's almost impossible to kill anyone directly in front of you. Sure, it takes the enemy a bit longer to bust through that shield, but because of that insane amount of recoil, it just doesn't make him a really great operator. And so I think a simple solution to this is just reduce his recoil significantly. It doesn't need to kick like a mule. In my opinion, Tachanka should be an anchor on defense. He should be something that the offensive team needs to work around. He can't move. He's stationary, so he's not like Blackbeard back in the day. He has to sit in that corner, but if he's gonna sit in that corner, he should be a menace. Like, he should be terrifying, and he should have a lot of firepower behind him. But because of that recoil, that's just not the way it works. I mean, I was playing as Glaz the other day. I put down his smoke screen, and then just fired at his shield continuously until it broke, until I got to that soft, gooey center, which was that headshot. And while I know I was playing as Glaz, so that gave me a huge advantage while in the smoke, he did try to retaliate. He was shooting into the smoke, but because I'm assuming he had so much recoil to deal with, he wasn't able to spray exactly where I was, and I had no problem winning that firefight. If he could just spray and consistently land shots exactly at head level wherever he wanted to be, you know, I'm saying there should be some recoil, it shouldn't be non-existent, but he is using a turret for heaven's sake. You would think that someone who was mounted to the ground would be able to have a lot less recoil to them. Do I think this all of a sudden would make Tachanka overpowered or even, you know, one of the best operators in the game? No, I think Tachanka, by the core of his design, is always going to be one of the weaker operators in Rainbow Six Siege. As soon as you get droned out in this game, it puts you at a huge disadvantage. Every other operator can move around. They don't have to stay stationary, but of course that's exactly what Tachanka has to do, which puts him in a very precarious situation. All in all, I'm right there with you that he does need an upgrade. First things first, I think that that turret needs a substantial reduction in its recoil, and if they wanted to take it a step further, why not buff up his shield a bit? Give it a bit more HP so that it doesn't die. It seems very flimsy right now, and if they want to even go further than that, maybe it's a bit bigger than it is so that it blocks larger areas around him. That would also be a nice step in the right direction. All of this combined might be too much, but I don't think that that actually be true. I want Tachanka to have his place in Rainbow Six Siege. I want him to be an anchor for defense, and that clearly is not the case right now. The next question comes from Chris, and it is, what do you think about a burst fire only weapon in Rainbow Six Siege? Would it be a great thing, or it just doesn't fit the game at all? No, actually, I think that this fits perfectly, and I'm kind of surprised that we don't have a burst fire only weapon in the game. Now, I know that you can change the fire mode on your weapons, but I don't see anyone doing that, or at least when I watch competitive or when I watch and play with all my friends, no one changes the actual fire mode of their gun, because why would you? If you want a burst fire, we're just gonna tap your weapon. You're just not gonna hold down the trigger. You're just gonna tap once and that's your burst fire. Like, why in the world would you want to put a restriction on yourself? And so with that being said, you might be thinking now, okay, well then why do you like the idea of a burst fire only weapon? Like, if it's mandatory, it puts yourself at a disadvantage, why would you want a gun like that in the game? Well, first of all, it would just bring in more variety. I can't believe that we don't have a mandatory burst fire weapon right now, and I think that if it was done correctly, it could be an interesting weapon to use. Maybe because it is burst fire, they give it other awesome stats. Maybe it hits like a truck. Like, if you line it up, yeah, it might be burst fire, it has technically a slower RPM, but if you line up those 3 shots or whatever the burst is, you put that in the enemy, it does an insane amount of damage. Maybe it has significantly less recoil than a lot of the guns in the game, and it's laser beam-like accurate at almost all distances. Yes, you have to tap fire. You can't just squeeze and hold down the trigger and hope that your bullets are going to fly where you want them to go, but as long as you can work around that negative, it's going to allow you to snipe people at long range. What it really comes down to, though, and the main reason why I like this idea so much, is that we just don't have anything like this in the game right now. A lot of other first-person shooters, of course, have burst fire weapons. They're fun in those. They add in more variety, and I'd love to see that kind of diversity added into the game. The next question is, why do you think so many people are leaving Battlefield 1? Now that is a big question. I think a lot of people will initially point to the lack of content in Battlefield 1, and that's the biggest culprit, and that's a very valid claim. There's not a lot of weapon variety, there just isn't a lot of guns in general, and they've been very slow with their DLC, and they've also split up the community with their DLC policy. And so right off the bat, I think that that is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people have moved on to other video games. You kind of enjoy it for what it is. I put about 300 hours into it, but there's only so much automatical gameplay that I can stand. Like it just kind of gets stale. You look through the different weapons looking for more, and you just can't find it. I think another reason why I and a lot of people have left is that the combat itself, the core gameplay mechanics, just isn't as enjoyable as past Battlefield games, and it's not as entertaining. Now, I know that this is going to be a much more controversial topic, but I just recently went back to Battlefield 3, and I adored the gameplay. Now, I know this might be a bit of my nostalgia here, but even playing it today, one of the things that I loved about it was that when I shot at someone, my bullets actually went where I was aiming. For some reason, DICE has been going in this direction where bullet deviation is the way they balance out all of their guns. When I went back and played Battlefield 3, I knew when the enemy was going to die. I knew that as long as I put 4 bullets into them at this distance, they were going to drop like a rock, and then I could immediately move on over to the next target. Having that consistency and that confidence in my gameplay is something that I really miss in the Battlefield franchise. I can't really say the same for Battlefield 1. Because there is so much bullet deviation, you don't have that consistency. You just spray down range, hope that your bullets land, and then move on to your next targets. And while I'm not saying that you can't excel in this game and there's no skill whatsoever, like I don't want to say that, but I feel like you kind of hit this point where you've mastered the automatico and there's no way that you can push further than that because of the way that the weapons perform. I think this is the reason why I gravitated to a lot of the weapons that were just more accurate in that game. The 1916 was one of my favorite weapons because as long as I lined up the shot, more often than not, I was going to be able to do some damage. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, wait, Batimio, if you loved Battlefield 3 and you liked your bullets going where you pointed, well then why are you playing that game? Because of the suppression effect. If you were suppressed back in the day, your bullets went everywhere. I mean, that was something that a lot of people complained about. And that's just it. Everyone complained about the suppression effect back in Battlefield 3, and so why are they taking that same concept but applying it to basically every single gun in Battlefield 1? And so I know that we could talk about this forever. Some people could bring up how DICE is leaning more towards the spectacle of war. It's really cool to have explosions happening everywhere, behemoths up in the sky, planes dropping bombs, like you're dying everywhere. It's really cool the first time you experience it, but that randomness and just not being able to react to your environment because explosions are killing you constantly can really grate at you, and that might be another reason why people are leaving. Who knows? Maybe none of this is the reason why people are leaving. I mean, maybe Battlefield just has a lot more competition now. I mean, I play and love Rainbow Six Siege. A lot of great games have come out on console in 2017. Maybe there's just a lot more diversity in the game selection, and so people are jumping onto those games and Battlefield is kind of fallen by the wayside. That's also a possibility. Let me know what you guys think about this topic though. Are you still playing Battlefield? Was there a specific reason why you've moved on to other video games? Is there a specific reason why you left Battlefield 1? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. The next question comes from Manuel, and it is, do you think that shield users in Rainbow Six Siege should place their sidearms in front of their shield when they aim down sights like SWAT cops do in real life, in order to not get headshot that easily? Okay, maybe I'm just slow, but I don't even understand how that's physically possible. The reason why when you aim down sight with shields in Siege is mainly because of balancing reasons, which we'll get to here in a second, but also because I don't know how you would be able to do that in real life. You have to bring the shield down because it's in your way. It's a physical object, and unless you had like a hole or a slit you could put your hand on and through, I don't see how you're going to be able to bring up your gun through a shield to be able to aim at your enemy. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, once again, I could be slow. Maybe you're shifting the shield onto the left side of your face so only half of your face is exposed. Maybe that's what you're going for, but I can't think of a way that you'd be able to get the entire shield in front of you and also your gun as well, unless there was a hole or a slit that you could put your hand on through. Now, if this is actually something that you can do in real life, and I'm just not able to wrap my head around a simple concept, I think the main reason why they don't allow us to do this in Siege is because it would be blatantly overpowered. Can you imagine having Monty running around the map, but being able to aim down sight and have the aim down sight accuracy with his pistol, but also be fully protected with his shield? there would be no reason to play as any other operator in the game. Like, shield operators would be the best of the best because, while yes, they are using a pistol, as long as they get a headshot with that, they're good to go, and they have the full protection of the shield in front of them. And so I think that's just what it comes down to, the balance of the operators. I know that some of the shields can feel weak at times. They do feel quite vulnerable, especially when you do need to get that kill. You need to line up that headshot, but I do not think that this is a buff that they need. But yeah, guys, that is it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Do you like the idea of giving more buffs to shield operators? Do you think that that's not necessary? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.